Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to my first GSG video. I'm going to be going over some tips and a few things that Santo didn't go over in his lecture videos for stuff like the input, and a few of the hotkey-esque stuff. So let's hop right into it. Although full disclaimer, I am going to have to actually cut to one of my other videos that I try to take of this because I've already tried to record this a couple times and I didn't realize that my mic wasn't working. And I've already deleted a few of the things that I had set up. So I'm gonna have to jump over to my old video in a second. But I'll do that when I get into the input stuff. First off, as you guys are going through this, you might end up having a lot of variables. Now, this isn't going to be too big of a problem when you're just working on your individual projects, but as you get into stuff like your group projects, or if you start making something pretty massive, it can be a bit hard to find what you're looking for in your variables and your functions. So you might have noticed I have these little tab groups that I can collapse and stuff, and I've made these. This one you might recognize, because that one comes with anytime you have like components and stuff. But I've decided to make things like stats, miscellaneous base stats. That way, if I'm like, hey, I need my health or whatever, I can just drag it out. It's in my stats. I don't have to go searching for it in a long list of stuff. I can just open up stats, and there it is. Now to make these categories, let me make this a bit bigger for a second. There's a couple ways that you can go about doing this. Let me make a new variable. Let's just make like ammo or something. I'll make it into an integer. So what you can do is right here you can see there's the category. Since I have already made them, I could just click on the one that I want, or I could type in whatever, and that's how you can make new categories. I'm going to go ahead and click stats, and then I'll bring it over into stats. The other way that you can do it, you make max ammo, is you can just drag it into whichever one you wanted it to go into. Now, one thing to keep in mind with that is if you have, like, let's say I did like camel case here, which I tend to do because that's just coding, it'll try to automatically put the space in, and sometimes when you then drag it in, it gets a little crazy. So just put the space in for the categories. It'll save you trouble later. So you can do the exact same thing with functions, which if you start getting a lot of functions going on, having them all nice and organized can help you find like, oh, I needed that one UI function. Cool, let me bring it in. Now, speaking of functions, as you're making your blueprints, you'll notice that there are two different major ways that you make what's going on. First off is making custom events, and you can give them, they're cool names. Events can only take in inputs, and you can't give them any sort of categories. They were just sort of chilling out in the event graph here. You can't really organize it too much. But they do have this replicates, which if you end up making any sort of like multiplayer game, this is really important for multiplayer. And events are the only ones that can be replicated. So if you have a function that needs to be replicated on the server, you then have to have an event called a function, and it's a replicated one, but I'm not going to get into that. Now for functions, let me just make like a max ammo, or I'm going to make this a max ammo. So when you're making your functions, you can have inputs and outputs. They're not required or anything, so let's just make like ammo. And let's just make an output over max. Generally when I'm returning a boolean, I actually like to do like is over max ammo. Is over max ammo. Just to have like it sounding like a question. Now, right now, what'll happen if I bring this into our event graph, you can see it has like our execute node. You might be like, yeah, I draw this, of course, that's how making functions work. But fun fact, you can actually make these pure functions. So what that means is it loses its execute pin and it just does whatever you've told it to do. So in this example here, let's say we wanted to check if this ammo that we're passing in is greater than our max ammo, which, fun fact, you can actually just look this in. You don't need to branch anything since it's just returning the boolean. Just look it in. So now this will check if whatever we passed in is greater than whatever we told the max to be. And now you don't have to worry about having it as an execute node. I could just use this straight in a branch and it'll just do it. Say like, oh, is 10 over the max? I don't know. And so that's how you can start making your functions. And like I said, they can be pure, so you don't have to have the execute node. It's really awesome. Let's see. As you're going through, you might be like, well, hey, I need to use this over here now. I don't know, I'm just gonna like press swing. Well, now my code, like the little lines are, getting all crossed and it's getting hard to see. Well, what you can do is you can add these reroute nodes. Now, there's two ways to add reroute nodes. As you might have seen, I just made one pop into existence. All you have to do is double click on your line and it'll add a reroute node for you. Now, if you want to add one freestanding, you can also just type reroute and it will show up, or you can press period and you'll get one as well. That way you can keep everything nice and organized. Another thing that you can do, so if you like your lines looking nice and pretty, what you can do is you can actually select what you want to be straightened and press the Q key, and it'll do its best to straighten things out. Sometimes it's not quite what you want, like, oh, that's not quite what I want, right? So, you gotta be careful what you're selecting. You can also use like your arrow keys to nudge things up and down a little. But that's not too big of an issue. Really, the biggest thing is making sure that anyone who's looking at your code can figure out where things are going, which is why having things like your reroute nodes to be like, oh, it's not going under this anymore, can be pretty important. Another thing to keep in mind is comments. So you can highlight what you want to have a comment and press C, and now you can comment in whatever you want. You can also just press C anywhere. Oop, no, stop it. Let me unselect that. You can also just press C anywhere and start typing. I'll do this a lot when I want to like leave notes in places, or if I want to reference like whatever tutorial video I had that I was following. And I'll just leave these freestanding notes. I know you can also do these like pin notes, but I've never really used them. But one really cool thing about this is once you have it commented, you can just drag it by the comment. So you don't have to bother like selecting it all again. So if you want to like reorganize, you can just be like, wait. If you want them to look more like this, you might have seen there's a comment color over here, so I can make it like a bit darker if you think the white is too obnoxious, which it can be. But now you have it nice and organized. And once again, when you're working in a group, you can have things labeled and they'll be like, oh, okay, that's where that's happening. Maybe someone needs to hook something into whatever you're making, and if you have it commented, then they'll be able to find where they're trying to go more easier. Or if you decide to come back to your project and you're like, what the heck did this spaghetti code do? If you leave comments for yourself, you'll be able to know when you come back. Now one more thing before we hop over into the action mapping section. Oh, that was rude. Why didn't you come along? Oh, okay, I just felt like it for a second. One more thing that might help save you time in the future is when you bring your variables and stuff out. So let's say, let me go over variables in general. So, let's say I needed to save whatever the string was. So you can just drag it out and you can click promote to variable. And just give it a name like straight up like that, full string. If you're in a function, you can also have local variables. What? Oh, I accidentally clicked display name. Wait, where's this one? So let me say I needed to promote ammo to a local variable. That's a variable that will only exist in this function. It's like local ammo. So if I head back over to the event graph, that variable doesn't exist over here. If I needed to, let's say I wanted to set cool string to something new, you don't have to come out and hit set and then drag the pin together. What you can do is you can just drag it straight on here and it'll automatically hook up. The same thing for like getting. So let's say I wanted to hook it up here. It'll automatically hook it in. If let's say I had, I needed to swap this out for something else. Let's say like I had a name I needed to put in here. And I needed to swap this. All you have to do instead of like doing get and then hooking the pin in, and this is something that saved me so much time after I learned it. All you have to do is put it right here when the check mark shows up and then it says change node to read name or to read whatever, and it'll just swap it. And the same thing goes for these too. You can just quick swap, so you don't have to be doing quite as much mouse work to swap things around and stuff like that. Let me just add Boolean. I want to say this will also work if I do branch, unless, oh, because I'm already hooked up to something. Hold up. Let me just delete this branch really fast. I type in branch. Since it's the first thing that's coming in, it'll automatically select. It doesn't always work out super great, but sometimes it can save you a little bit of time. So I use the branch is like the automatic first one since it's used so much. So I just type B and then enter really fast. There's a couple other like hotkeys that are semi-important, although I don't ever really find myself using them. I'm pretty sure you can just press B and then click, and it'll also make a branch for you. But I don't know. I'm so ingrained of right-clicking and then press B and then enter that I tend to do that instead. But yeah, holding down B and then clicking will also make it. You can play around with like what keys do what. Like let's see what it is. I'm just clicking random buttons to see if any of these do anything. Oh, I don't know. Hold so F and clicking will get you a for each loop. G and clicking will get you a gate. You can just sort of play around. M is I don't even know what a multi-gate is. N is a do N. Oh, there's B again. Oh, there's C. I already knew that one. Yeah. So there's a couple hotkeys. There are a couple in like materials that if I do a video on materials, I might talk about purely because a lot of tutorial videos for some reason don't talk about the hotkeys, and so I've had to like look them up several times because for some reason they just don't talk about it. But these are the big ones really. And yeah, I hope that saved you guys some time. Let's hop into the action mapping. This week's Centella talked about making your action mapping, so you would click like these plus signs and set it all up. But you might have noticed that on the top here it says Axis and App action mappings are now depreciated. Please use enhanced input actions and input mapping context instead. What are those? On the bright side, they are very, very similar to action and axis mappings. But there are some pretty big differences, so let's go ahead and talk about those really quick. Now, because you might have also noticed that like movement and looking and stuff aren't in the first person and 3D input mappings. That's because they're all right here. So in the content first person input, all of that is in here now. So when you made stuff like moving or jumping, that's what this bit is here. So it's sort of been split into two bits. So you give it its name and what kind of data it's going to be giving, and then you tell it what kind of input it should be looking for. So to make these, you go to input and then input map. Input. What I just input action. Oh, I just moved something. I don't know, let's make this like IA sprint. When you open this up, you can see it's got the different types of data. For the most part, you're going to be using bool. I know the move one is a vector 2D. And once you have this set up, like that's it. You can close that. Save and close it. To tell it what to expect, you're gonna make one of these, input mapping contexts. So this is the IMC default that comes with the first person and third person projects. And you can see that they then added the mapping, said which one that they wanted to do, and then said what button you should press. So you can either click on this and then press whatever key, or you can find it in here. Now, for the most part, that's all you'll ever need to do. There are some modifiers for some things. So, for example, if we look into movement, you can see that these modifiers, they have, let me just open up all of them. So D doesn't have any modifiers, so going right apparently is just the default for movement. But if you want to go left, you have to negate it. If you want to go forward, you have to do what's called swizzling. I didn't know what swizzle meant before I was looking into making this video, but apparently that means like rotating at 90 degrees or something. And then swizzle negate to go backwards. And so that's the kind of thing that you can do to then have the one thing give whatever data you need. Now there's also this category triggers you might have noticed. Now triggers are, I mean, they're pretty much all self-explanatory, so this will only fire once it's been held for a certain amount of time, all that fun stuff. Now, one I wanted to talk about today, because I just learned about it, was combo. But I will talk about it in just 1 second, because I just realized I forgot to talk about why these are split into different mapping contexts. So you might have noticed, by default, ooh, what did I just do? What did I do? Oh, I accidentally made a trigger. My bad. You might have noticed that there are two mapping contexts that come with your projects. Now, this one has all of like moving, looking, jumping that comes with it. And the weapons one is the one that has the IA shoot. So what's happening there is in your projects, which this also might come up if you've made a blank project and you're like, why can't I told it what buttons to do for like moving, why isn't it moving? That's because you have to tell it what mapping context it's allowed to use. So begin play pulls up the enhanced input local player subsystem and then tells it to use the mapping context you want it to be using. Now, when you don't have a gun, you don't need to be shooting. So they split it into its own context. And so what happens is when you pick up the weapon, it adds this component. So here is where they then tell it, hey, they have a gun now. Now they can also have the weapons context. So you can choose which context they have at any point in time. So let's say like you have like they can walk around or they have a car, and so shifting makes them sprint when they're like a person, but maybe shifting, I don't know, honks the horn or does the handbrake or something, I don't know. When you're driving a car. Well, those are two different things that could be happening. So now you could just have two different contexts that swap out depending on what's going on. Now going back, like I said, I made a combo example to show you guys what the combo node or trigger means. So what you do is you tell whatever you want to be the combo, what the combo is in order to trigger it. So in this instance, I told it was going to be up, up, down. This is how much time they have to press before it like fails. And then I just gave those normal ones. So, unfortunately, I can't. I accidentally delete. Well, I say I accidentally. I need to go pull up the old footage because I don't have all of the print statements that I previously had. So let me just pull that up. Okay, so I've now swapped over to my old footage because, like I said, I accidentally deleted a few things. When you pull out the enhanced input actions, you might notice they look quite different from the basic actions. So instead of just having pressed and released, you now have triggered, started, ongoing, canceled, completed. Now, what does that mean? So what happens is started only fires once, then it goes to ongoing. For the most part, it's then going to go straight to triggered, and then once you've released, it'll go to completed. Now, if for some reason triggered doesn't happen, that's the only time it'll go to canceled. Is that crazy? Yes. But if you forget which one to hook it into, all you have to do is run it once and you'll be like, oh, it didn't fire when I wanted to, so you can just swap it. Now, when... Oh yeah, and you can also just like hover over and it'll generally explain when it's supposed to fire, but it confused me, so I decided to draw this image out to explain what's happening, and I'm going to show you in the print statements in a second. So, oh yeah, and don't mind those action started things. I started to make some really dumb looking UI so you could see what buttons I'm pressing, and that was how I managed to get it to work. So you can see in the bottom right there, I've got it showing you what keys I'm pressing. So I just pressed up, and you might have seen a lot of combo ongoing. So I've only pressed up at that point. So we have, I gotta scroll down. So we have up started, up triggered, and then don't do combo unstarted because I haven't completed the combo, but it's technically started like looking for it. So remember how I said it goes started and then ongoing and then triggered? So the combo has technically started, but it hasn't hit triggered yet, which is why now up triggered and combo ongoing are firing at the same time. So this are just things to keep in mind. For the most part, you won't have to worry about things like this. You could just do, like, if you only want to fire once, just use started. If you only want it to fire on release, just do completed. For the most part, you won't have to worry about these things. But I figured I would just explain what's happening in the background in case it does come up. Now, I think like I said, this is old footage, so I don't really remember what I'm talking about right now. I think I'm deleting a couple of these because I'm like, you don't really need. Yeah, I think I'm just talking about what I already said. Yeah, I think I'm deleting a couple of them just so they're not clogging the. Oh yeah, now you can see combo canceled. So if I let go and I let the timer expire, it said canceled. But if I actually do the combo, and I'm holding down, oh yeah, I had noticed that for some reason the combo doesn't cancel right away when you just hold down the first part of the combo, but if you move on to the second part of the combo and then you wait for that like 0.5 seconds to elapse, the combo will cancel. So on the first one it doesn't, but anyone after that it will cancel if you wait too long. But other than that, you can see the combo only triggered once I had done the full combo when I had that set to completed, which I should really go up and point out, but whatever. If you want, you can just play. It's super easy to play around with it. Just literally just set up the same print statements that I have, and you can just sort of push buttons and see what happens. If you guys want me to talk about mappable stuff, I can potentially talk about mappable stuff in the future. I will say that enhanced action mapping is a bit harder to have, like, players being able to map stuff. So it might be you don't really want to worry about it in this project, but I can potentially talk about it if you want me to. Alright, and that about wraps up this week's video. If you guys have any questions about that, feel free to let me know, either in the comments or on the Discord. If you have watched this, I probably put in text at the beginning because I just realized I forgot to mention this at the beginning. But if you could let me know that you watched this, that would be great because I just want to log whoever, like, quote unquote attended, so that way I can tell my bosses that this is actually helping people, and it's worth doing in the future. Because if no one watches these, then they're probably just gonna assign me to something else. Um, so yeah, just let me know. Even if you don't have any questions, just let me know if you watch this or not. Um, and yeah, I really appreciate it. And yeah, if you guys have any requests for topics you want me to cover in the future, let me know. Like I said on the Discord post, I am open to suggestions. Everything is sort of semi loosely planned, and I have no issue adding or moving things around. Um, yeah. All right. Have a good week, everyone.